Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home. I'm Colleen Pilar, and this is where pet professionals come for honest conversations about what it really takes to show up for yourself while serving the animals you love. If you've ever felt caught between compassion and exhaustion, you're in the right place. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your inner wisdom and rediscover the joy that brought you to this work. Make sure to join my email community at colleenpilar.com for gentle, practical insights designed specifically for pet professionals. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Moani Makaiwi. I think I did that wrong. Did I do that wrong? I did not. Hooray. Okay, we've had a couple of glitches here getting started today. So Moani has been so patient with me today. She is a Humane Enforcement Resource Officer at the Maui Humane Society, and we have had quite a time of getting started here today. So thank you so much, Moani. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So tell us a little bit about what that means to be a Humane Enforcement Resource Officer. And the acronym for that is HERO, which I kind of love. That's an awesome acronym for this job. But tell us a little bit about what that means.
I'm basically in two worlds. I'm on the enforcement side where I can obviously write a ticket, write a citation. But then I'm also on the other side of pet retention and seeing how I can actually help them instead of citing them, because we all know when you're unable to show up to court or anything like that, what good is my citation? Is it helping or is it going to make it worse for them? And would it be easier for me to just help them with the solution? So that's my role as a resource officer.
And not just on Maui, is that correct?
Correct. I just recently got back from Molokai. We took over the contract on the island of Molokai, which was under the police department as a dog warden. It's always been a dog warden, I think, since 1943, I think, when they initially started it here in Hawaii. And then we took over the contract with the county because we're a nonprofit and subcontracted government. So I was there for 4 or 5 months until we were able to hire two new humane enforcement officers and an ACE, an animal care enrichment specialist for Molokai. It's a satellite position basically on that island.
And so mostly you're in Maui?
I'm back on Maui full time. This is, I think, my second week being back on Maui.
So still settling back into regular real life, huh?
Yeah, it's it's very different. I yeah, it's a lot, you know. As a resource officer, I've been in that role for a little over a year and a half now. Being on Molokai, I was, obviously an enforcement officer, but I utilized my primary job description as a resource officer on Molokai. Even though the contract is not based on that, it's based on enforcement. And, coming back to Maui just before summer, really begins for us, even though it's summertime pretty much all year round. But
Mm-hmm.
with the kids being out of school. So then I do outreach events also and educational events. So we have Summer Pals going on right now. Today's our second day with Summer Pals. So it's getting back into the swing of taking that hat off from what I was wearing on Molokai all this time and, kind of just sitting back into my role of, the resource officer. So it's been kind of challenging. And, I just feel like, I don't know. I'm right now in a space of the unknowing, I guess, where I belong again. It's like my
Mm-hmm.
identity within the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference for certain parts of your job over others? Like you just mentioned the education elements of that are kicking back in for summer. Is that something that you love or?
Oh, I love doing the educational outreach. Um, whether it's with our kiki, our children, or our adults, or our community as a whole. I love it. I love it because to me, you know, in a way, a lot of folks are, the excuses of when we do respond to a call, especially for cruelty or neglect or something in that range.
Hmm.
A lot of it is based upon what they were taught. And, obviously it's old school, right? It's
Hmm.
old school knowledge. And for me to be able to come on in and educate them with 2025, you know, and healthier ways, and see that change, I love it. And that's through education. And that's being able, like my role, I'm able to take the time. I'm able to sit there with them and truly find out what's going on to be able to help them have these healthy choices and, you know, what resources, that I know of that I can also help them with.
One of your acronyms was ACE. I forgot what the A is, but canine
Animal
enrichment.
care enrichment
Animal
specialist.
care enrichment. Animal
Yeah,
care
kennels.
enrichment. I was clinging to the enrichment. My brain held that one. And enrichment is a piece that's so, so important, but generally not in the public's awareness as much as it is in the professional person's awareness. So,
Correct.
what is important to you from an educational aspect about enrichment for people to learn, to better support the animals on Maui and elsewhere, um, that you think that they really need to know?
I think it's the same thing as us as humans, right? Enrichment. What is enrichment to us? It's exercising, it's going for a walk on a beach, it's taking a hike, it's reading a book that you've been wanting to pick up. For me, it's the same thing with animals. When I say enrichment for, our canines especially, you have a dog that's very hyper, but if they're just stuck in a kennel or, a small little backyard, and yes, you're providing them with a safe, secured, home and shelter and food and water, but the brain, the mind is so constantly, stuck just like us humans, and we do get stuck. And it's having that enrichment. Mm, So like, go throw the ball with the dog, in your yard and or take it to a dog park and go throw it in the dog park that's secured, you know, or take your dog for a nice long walk down at the beach or a nice long hike, around or even just a walk around your neighborhood. That's enrichment, right? And it betters you yourself too as a human side because you're also getting that enrichment from, doing the things for your dog or any animal that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, we tend to forget all about that too for ourselves.
Oh, for sure. It's the first thing that we let go of whenever we're under any stress, or like all the things that make us feel better. I don't have time for that. Um,
Yeah.
I currently have a dog who's very reactive to people and other dogs, and so one of the things I've been adding in is just safaris, and so I'm finding like big open spaces where there isn't likely to be a person. Um, and at first I was feeling kind of guilty, like I should be doing more training, and I have been doing training, but like I should be training this. But I'm seeing such a difference in just going out and letting him explore the world on his own terms where there's safety, but there's stuff to see and smell and hear, but it's over there. And the enrichment aspects of that are just incredible and helpful to me too because it's getting me out walking around places and on uncertain footing as opposed to walking on a concrete path through my neighborhood passing the same houses every day. I think enrichment's super important.
Well, I think sometimes too, in our profession, right? Because our profession is to talk a lot, especially for me, I should say for field services, right? And pet retention, those that have to deal with the human side. Besides the animal side, we have to. It's not like we get to have a pass on that. So I think, a lot of us, by the time we're done with the day, we just don't want to talk. We don't want to socialize. We don't want to nothing. You know what I mean? And you just like you're just so overwhelmed with the day and everything that went on. And some, not even sometimes, most times it bleeds into our home life, you know,
Oh, yeah.
where it's not about, you know, you not wanting to have that connection with your family, right? It's just the fact that you're so overwhelmed by the time you get home. And it's like you're wanting to switch that off from your day, but yet it's hard when you come home. It's hard when you come home and you have a family and you have a spouse who wants to tell you about their day, and you're just like, please not right now. Can please hold off? Can we pause? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you get your kids wanting your attention, as soon as you get home, to tell you what the amazing things they have done in school, or a new friend, or, anything, and you're just like, at least for me, I get overwhelmed really quickly when I get home because I'm already at my zero by the
Mhm.
time I do get home. I mean, I'm the type now that just sit in my truck for at least a good 15 to maybe 30 minutes, you know? And that's me trying to take the work hat off to
Yeah.
be present for my family. But even though I take that 30 minutes for myself, sitting in my vehicle, right? It doesn't always work that way, And especially like for me, it's been kind of hard, I should say, because, I flew back and forth to Molokai. So Mondays I would fly in, then I would fly back on Fridays. And then, when I got back to Maui, because my shelter is here on Maui, I had a lot of things I still had to do when I got back here. So I would have to go back to the shelter, even though I'm off the clock, right? So I'm giving time. I'm
Mhm.
giving time, and I'm taking time away from my family.
Mhm.
And, then it came down to where I just felt like I had like maybe a day and a half with my family,
Yeah. For months.
and yeah, for months. And, you know, you tend to let things slide
Yeah. It's
because
tricky.
when you only have a day and a half to switch it off and be present, and yet, the being present means being for your family, right? Who needs you?
Mhm.
And then you shut off because you just can't give, because you just want to isolate. You just want to, have some peace and quiet and not think of anything. And especially in field services, because we make so many decisions that, I can ruin someone's, reputation. I can ruin someone's, life with a citation, you know? And so that comes with big decisions that, a lot of us make on a daily basis, and especially with the animals, their care. And then when you come home, you just like, you don't want to make decisions.
Yeah.
You just want to just sit there and say yes, you know? But then your yes turns into like, are you not listening to me? Or so you don't care? And you're like, no, that's not it. That's not it. Like, you know,
Yeah, it is interesting how our coping strategies can sometimes get in the way
fire.
of other things. Yeah, the best of intentions, and then it comes out interpreted by the other person slightly differently than the way we were sending the message or trying to send it. Uh,
Yeah.
so one question I always like to ask people is like, when you were 10, what did you think you were going to do for a career?
Honestly, at 10,
Mhm.
I thought I was going to go into some type of social welfare.
Ah, well, what a smart 10-year-old.
Yeah, that's
So
where I
then
thought I was going to end up going.
can you talk me through what happened between that 10-year-old who thought that and this person here today? How did your career path go? What did walk me through it. What have
Um,
your jobs been?
well, let's see. I was a 911 dispatcher, emergency service dispatcher for Maui Police Department, and also for Kingman, Arizona Police Department. I also worked as a animal control dispatcher for Orange County, California. So I've been constantly around, the first responder kind of
Mm-hmm.
career life choices. Except one job, I should say. I did a tour guide. I was a tour guide on the island of Big Island.
Did you like that?
But it worked out. Honestly, I loved it because I had a lot of folks that came on vacation and they would see me and all the other drivers and they would all want to hop in my vehicle because they're like, oh, we want to be with the local. We want to learn the the real stuff from her. Like we want her. So I used to get a lot of that. So it was great. And, a lot of my tours were based upon factual things because I used to always give everyone the choice. Hey, what you guys want? You want the typical tour stuff or you guys want some factual things, an educational tour? And most times, a lot of them said, hey, Moani, we want that educational tour. So when you think about it, I've kind of been in that realm of educating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. And so you started in Hawaii and then you were in Arizona and California and back to Hawaii. Was that just like life and family choices or you wanted something else
Yeah.
or
No, it was life and family choices. I met my ex-husband um years ago, like 20 plus years ago, which led us to California. And then we came back to Hawaii after he had retired, and then we moved to Arizona for family. And then we moved to East Texas. And then I said, no, I'm done. And I came back home to Hawaii. Yeah.
it
But I
was
always knew I was gonna come back. I always knew that.
you always knew that.
Yeah, yeah. The continent was not my forever home. I love it. I love, being up there and driving from state to state and, visiting other cultures. And then also the food is amazing up there. But that's the lifestyle. Hawaii is my lifestyle. I get to
I
pull over on the side of the road during traffic or, you know, like there's a one way in, one way out where I live. So if there's an accident, I get to just turn my vehicle off and change into my bathing suit and hop in the water while I'm waiting for, the roads to open. So
That is not my life. That has never been my life. So do you get into the water regularly? I know a lot
I
of people
try
who live
to
near water who don't actually get in the water. Do you get in the water?
at least once a week.
At least once a week. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's actually my calming place is the ocean or water in general.
Mhm.
So yeah, I get to unload everything into it. So here you go, take it.
And it does. And it does. And it supports
Yeah,
you while it does. It supports you while it takes it.
yeah, it's a good cleanse.
So how long have you been you said you've been a hero in that role for 1.5 years. That's what my note says. You probably said 1.5, but I'm glancing down at my paper and it says 1.5. I'm pretty sure you didn't say it that way. Uh, have you been back with Maui Humane Society for just a year and a half, or did you have a role before the hero role?
No, I've always been with Moani Humane Society since 2021. And I started off as a humane enforcement officer. So that's, humane enforcement officer here are subcontracted out from the mayor's office. So my position though as a humane enforcement resource officer is grant funded.
Hmm.
Yeah. So obviously when the opportunity came up, I applied for it and yeah, I've been in this role now a little over a year and a half now. It was right after actually the Lahaina fire is when I came into this role. Hmm.
Which came first, the desire for this role, and then they found a grant to support it, or there was a grant available and they were like, here's money and this is what we would like to do with it?
So this grant is, it started off, well, it's a 3-year grant, right? So when I came in, I think it was on the second year, kind of the second rolling into the third year of having this position. The resource officer before me had left. And so when it became available, I was like, you know what, maybe this is where I need to be instead of on just, I'm not saying just, but there's a clear line of the difference of an HEO, which is Humane Enforcement Officer, and
Hmm.
a hero.
Tell me more about
So,
that for the people who won't know the line. What is that line?
well, as Humane Enforcement Officer, you have a case and you're kind of limited on, your time frame. Our island, we only have so many officers. We don't even have majority of the officers on are located on our central side, so we don't even have, Lahaina covered all the time. It depends on cases. It's because the island is just so huge. So when you do have a case, most times we're short staffed, so you're limited. Unlike as a resource officer, if I am being called to go ask, not ask, but to go help someone, then I kind of have an idea of what they're needing.
Hmm.
But at the same time, when I do arrive, like I get to have that time. I don't get to rush, you know what I mean, my time with them. I get to sit there. I get to see, a lot of them are my houseless community members. So I sit there with them. And I mean, some of them even cook me lunch while we're talking, while I'm playing with their dogs. Yeah, houseless. Did I say houseless? Yes, I did. Uh huh. And I just sit there and, I find out what their needs are. Some of them I've helped them, also sign up with our Maui Food Bank, or if they need mental help, I'll reach out for them to give their contact. So I'm more than just on the animal welfare side.
Hmm.
It's like having all these relationships with my community as a whole,
Yeah.
and knowing what's available for our, human side and being able to say, hey, you know what? Let me make a phone call. Do you mind? Do you mind if I give out your information? And if you want, I can set you up an appointment and I can be here with you during that initial appointment to get you started. So,
Wow.
I've done that also.
What a great role. What a what a wonderful, powerful thing to be doing.
I love it.
Yeah. And it takes something from you. And you love it.
Yeah. But sometimes, like you said, it takes something, it takes empathy, right? You
Hmm.
have to have empathy at
Hmm.
its core. But at the same time, that empathy can be the one that drains you.
Hmm.
That can be the double-edged sword for you when you go home, when you try to, you know, clock out.
Yeah.
Because now
Yep.
you have sometimes when you give a lot and you don't realize it, then you go home and you're giving nothing. And not even to yourself.
Which is the hard key learning that we all have is that, like we have to make sure that we're prioritizing the things that really matter to us, which start with ourself, even though that's where we don't typically start. And then those people that are the family, the connection, the friends, um, we often give them less because they'll understand. And yes, but when we do, there's a diminishment of ourselves and of those relationships, but also of what we have available to give others, which is not to say that it's our job to fill ourselves up in order to serve. But it is worth noting that if your drive is to serve, you are actually harming that drive when we don't take care
Hmm.
of ourselves. And that, your 30 minutes in the truck can on different days, I'm sure, feel different. Where some days you're like, no, I really should just stop this and just get home because they're waiting for me. Or other days you're like, okay, and in both cases you need it. But what you're
Yeah.
telling yourself about it might be different.
And you have some days when you get, you just can't wait to get home, just in
Hmm.
general. You don't need that 30 minutes, that 5 minutes, that minute, nothing. It's just like, oh, I can't wait to get home, and all that. But yeah, I think, we tend to forget about ourselves a lot. And I think, I was just thinking about that yesterday on my drive home, and I'm like, wow, we get into this line of work, right? Because we see these animals and they don't have the voice, right? The words to communicate their needs, their wants, what's hurting them. And then you have folks like us that's like, I'm coming in and I'm gonna talk, for them, and you know, and you feel deeply, into that belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you didn't believe it, you wouldn't be working in animal care. Period. There's no
Right.
way. But I think we tend to forget, and I just been going back to it a lot, is that we sometimes use that as an excuse in what we do.
Tell me more.
Well, I just feel like, some of, there have been times where, I work and take on so many things and I don't say no.
Mm-hmm.
I say yes. And it's because of that that I'm like, oh, well, it's like Molokai, right? Well, who better to send to Molokai? I'm from Molokai. My father was from Molokai. My mom is from Maui, divorced parents. So who better to send to Molokai? One, the Kanaka, a Hawaiian, me. Two, the one whose last name is from Molokai. Three, the one who knows the island, because the reception there is horrible, but it's a beautiful island. And that's why I love Molokai for who that island is.
Mm-hmm.
And you say yes, 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 yes. And then next thing you know, you forget about all the other things that you kept saying no to that you should have been saying yes to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you lose out on a lot of things. And you lose kind of like a part of yourself too at the same time. So, like your identity, right? Of who you were before you said yes to all these things.
Yep.
And then now trying to regulate yourself, right? And but then in the back of your head, you're still saying, but if I don't do it, who's gonna do it? Who's gonna understand them? Who's gonna understand those owners that the only time they've ever had a dealing with field services was in a negative light, but now they have someone else from field services that has brought a positive light. And you built this relationship, you built this bridge, and you're looking at it going, oh, if somebody else does it, then I hope they don't burn the bridge
Mm-hmm.
that you worked so hard on. Because again, HEO and a resource officer is two different worlds, two different beasts at the same time. You know,
Yeah.
yes, do we do both jobs? Yes, but you know, it just we think about the animals of not having that voice and that we need to be that voice,
Mm-hmm.
and we
That's
just
that's such a common motivator for those in our field.
yeah.
I ask all of my guests to share some words that have meaning to them, and the words you shared were, "It's okay to not be okay." Tell me a little bit about that. When did those words come to you, and what do they mean to you?
I think that came to me more so after the Lahaina fire. I just that whole yes and determination, all the above. And then I had to learn that I had to reach out for help after the Lahaina fire because I wasn't doing okay at all. So, I just kind of learned that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say it. It's okay to say, not today.
Yeah.
It's okay to give only 20%. We are in this line of work. If I feel like we are we th- we thrive on always giving our 100, right? And
Mhm.
if we don't give that 100, it's like, what am I doing? When in reality, we can't always be giving 100. We can't.
We can't.
There are days you're gonna be giving 20%. And if you're giving 20, take that PTO, take that vacation, call out sick. You know what I mean? Call out sick. I mean, it's not sick, but that's the sad thing. Why do we have sick time? Why don't we have, the vacation time, or, instead of it being called sick time, why can't it be called, you know what? I'm in a great mental health space right now. I'm going to take that day because I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to recharge what I'm feeling today. You know, why do we have to always wait till 20 and 10 and 30%? Why?
That's fabulous advice. Are you able to take it yourself?
I am actually just tying up loose ends since I've been back from Molokai because we transfer dogs,
Mm-hmm.
So before I left, we had a lot of dogs. I had a lot of dogs in foster care, SOS foster, and our kennels were full and all this kind of stuff. So I'm actually, yes, I am going to be taking a much needed vacation. I'm going to go jump out of a plane, a perfectly fine, operable plane. I'm going to pull a Salina and let go and jump.
Good. Good. It's an interesting
Oh,
experience. I did that a couple years ago. I was like, why am I doing this? Oh, okay.
you know what? I've wanted to do it for the past, I don't know, 5 years, and always something came up or always an excuse. And finally, I'm just like, no, I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
for me. I'm gonna do something for me. And,
I hope it's awesome for you. I went with my youngest son, um, when we were getting ready to move to Michigan and he was getting ready to move out. We sort of said like, "Oh, we have this last couple of months together," and we both had said at some point maybe we would do it. And I was like, "Let's do it together and make sure it happens." And so it was in Virginia, and we went and we had the whole experience of it's basically a hurry up and wait thing, like you're just sitting out there waiting, and then eventually it's your turn, and they give you all the lectures and stuff, and you're like, is this really what I want to do? And you sign the waivers saying you might accidentally die several times. Um, we're in the plane, and it's like two benches next to each other. And so he's in the other bench with his safety person next to me, and his guy says, "We're gonna make your mom jump out first so you can watch her scream." And I'm like, "Okay." And I was really super calm. I was just so calm, just hanging out with Brandon and going up there, sort of surreal, like, "Oh, wow, look at this." We get up to the front and I jump out. I'm fine and interesting. And then while we're falling, the guy points out, "There's your son. He's jumped. Everything's cool." The next morning in my kitchen, I had this image of what if Brandon had jumped out first? And my heart leapt out of my body. Like I think I might have flung myself out of an airplane if I had seen my child fly out of an airplane. You know, like the scariest thing for me about jumping out of an airplane was standing safely in my kitchen, envisioning a different outcome the day before. Oh, thank God for that instructor who thought it was just going to be that I would be screaming my head off. But no, that me leaping out of an airplane,
you,
fine. Watching my child, oh, I don't know if I could do it. So hopefully your experience will be, similarly cool. Like, oh, wow, this is interesting. And you won't have to have that.
hopefully there's some waterfalls that I get to see. I'm doing it out of Hana. So it's a beautiful drive for me, first thing in the morning. And then, yeah,
I bet it'll be
hopefully,
gorgeous. It'll be
yeah.
gorgeous just to see the scenery in Hawaii. I have not actually been in person yet, but my heart wants to be there. And I have a desperate desire to do a helicopter ride. And whenever I say it, it's
Ooh,
Hawaii. I'm like, I want to be like over that terrain and see and then experience it from the ground and above. Uh,
yeah.
so we'll see. It's my dream. I'll be showing up one day at your office and you'll be like, who is this person here who wants to just talk about work stuff, not actually adopt a dog? It's me.
Very cool.
So
But
give me before I wrap up here, there is a little bit of that Hawaii as paradise thing, but that's that's for those of us who don't live there, and you see all of it. You see the beauty, you're gonna jump and see the waterfalls, and you get to go in the water when you wanna go in the water, and also you see the hard pieces of the houseless people who are caring for their pets as best they can, and for the fire and all the hard things that are also a part of the reality. Can you just share, like, one element that you think is very different to be, a pet professional in Hawaii versus in the continental United States? Or
I think here it's a huge cultural difference. Huge. You have you have those that have been here for generations, right? Um, and we've integrated our cultures, right? So not only Hawaiian, you have the Portuguese, Filipino, Chinese, Japanese, and they integrated back in the pineapple field days, the cane field days, so everybody learned about their culture and we meshed it. That's why
Mhm,
our plate lunch is a little bit of everybody. Really, that's what it is. It's a little bit of every person. Because back in the pineapple field days, or the cane field days, they used to Japanese had their food, Hawaiian had their food, Filipino, and then they would all come together during lunch and sit there, right, and share what they all brought for lunch. So that's how we have the mixed plate. To me, it's the same thing with our animal welfare here. When you think about it, we have a mesh of people that are moving here from the continent with that mentality, right, of how it's, the laws there,
mhm.
you know, compared to when you come here, laws are very different. And in my opinion, some of them are like, it lacks the substance that is needed for our
Mhm,
state. But as an officer or even anyone in this profession here, you have to understand that in the state of Hawaii, our culture here, especially with the Kanaka, it is somewhat of an evolution of us bringing back our language, our heritage, our culture, everything. And there may be somewhat of a change coming, depending what our attorney general says. So that would entail that our laws may also be governed differently in the state of Hawaii, right?
mhm.
So adaptation is going to be huge depending on what comes in the next few months. So to me, here in Hawaii, it's not clear cut. Currently, right now, it is because it's, under American law is what it's being called. But if the state does recognize that Hawaii was illegally occupied, so this would be different than even the Native American Indians
How
because
so? I
Native
didn't
American.
know about this coming,
Oh yeah,
decision.
that's why for any law enforcement professional, any legal, like for us, we're covered under the letter of the law.
Mhm.
So that's American law. But if this law, so we've had multiple people that have, like senators, and then also a senator in the past, and then just recently we had a couple detectives from Maui Police Department went with the union rep, and then went to the attorney general for the state of Hawaii asking, is Hawaii or was Hawaii, I said, was Hawaii illegally, are we being illegally occupied? Was the state taken, right? Not given freely when supposedly we became a state.
Mhm.
Now it all depends what they say. If the attorney general says yes, right, you're correct. Hawaii has been illegally occupied. But guess what? Now we're under the treaty law. So that means anybody under law enforcement, depending who you're dealing with, it's not going to apply. The same law is not going to apply. But then what do we do, right?
Yeah, that is the question.
What do we do? And majority of the time, in our line of here in Hawaii, our profession,
Mm-hmm.
look, I am a Kanaka. And my koko, my blood is Hawaiian besides other things, but truly I am a Kanaka. In my profession or in animal welfare, if you look at our state, we are what do you call that? We are the minority. Yeah, we are the minority. And in a way, I mean, sometimes it's hard because you have to now educate, right, your peers and others,
Mm-hmm.
about the culture, which is great because who better to learn from one of your peers,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But at the same time, it kind of blends in both worlds, right, of your profession and your personal
Yeah.
and your beliefs.
Yeah.
So I think for Hawaii, depending on what's going to happen next, I think it's going to be a lot harder depending on the answer that comes forth in the next couple of months, actually. If anyone that comes from the continent here, I want to get into this profession, especially in field services, I think either it'll stay the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's going to be a lot of new classes that's going to have to be done on truly learning the culture, on learning, like, hey, with this area, you're unable to do certain things and how to go about it, you know. Um, so I don't know. It's I feel like, I feel excited, but yet I don't, if that makes sense.
Well, the uncertainty piece of it, like things could change,
Yeah.
but we don't know how, which is true of
Yeah.
all of life. But in this case, there's a very clear line of when that may happen.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and
I think
I hadn't even heard about that. So that's
yeah, it's
good.
huge. It's things are ever evolving in the state of Hawaii, especially with, the Kanaka coming back strong, after everything was taken away. So, how is that going to change animal welfare here? And if so, how? Is it going to be better? I hope it's going to be better, because some people have practices that because it's for their culture, it's allowed. But of course, then you have others that have never been around that culture, right? And never saw it, never whatever, and they look down on it. And sometimes I think that's just because they just weren't raised like how a lot of us were raised there in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of us, even though you see when you come here, like, oh, you live, in a residential area. Yeah, but we do have a lot of family members that still live in the countryside that we are heavily involved with. And it's a farmland or it's an ag land or it's pastoral, whatever it may be. So we still, and there's a lot of hunting that goes on here. And a lot of folks look down on hunting people.
Well, there
So
will definitely be huge changes. I'll have to
yeah,
check in with you and find out what happens in a few months
yeah.
and see.
I'm
Well, I mean, you won't know you'll know the decision, but you won't know the ripples for a while. But
yeah, exactly. It's the ripples.
yeah,
Is it going to
it's
be
the
a
ripples.
tsunami?
Let's hope not. I'm never in favor of a tsunami. Never in favor of that.
I'm a Pisces. I can swim, so I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. There she is in the water, letting her problems out. She can do it. She can do it. You seem uniquely gifted for managing the challenges that come because your sunny attitude and also your ability to be just sort of a straight shooter about what is. I think that probably comes in really handy for you in your role with the resource officer role. So
Well, thank you.
thank you so much for joining me to talk today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Oh, wait, I have one final question I wanted to ask. I almost forgot. If I could give you a magic wand and you could just grant a wish of your choosing for pet professionals, what would it be? What would you give us?
Wish. My wish would be for us to see what we give to all of these animals, for us to give to ourselves also.
Thank you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Moani. It was really a pleasure talking with you today, and thank you so much for your patience with all of our glitches at the beginning.
Thank you for having me. Mahalo. I love talking with you. I've missed you.
So good to see you. That's our conversation for today. If something we talked about resonated, I invite you to sit with it. Notice what feels true and what you want to explore further. You don't have to have it all figured out to start moving toward what matters. Whatever showed up for you today, clarity, questions, even resistance, trust that it's pointing you towards something important. For more support, join my weekly notes at colleenpilar.com. And until next time, remember, you are enough. Always, just as you are.